Hey everybody, it's Seven the Jester. I posted my video for day 69 about 4 hours ago, and one of my subscribers, longtime subscriber actually, I think he's been around since it's about the time I had about 10 subscribers. He made a comment saying that he really appreciates it and he enjoys the way that I teach. And he said that there's some moves that he's been struggling with, and he asked me if I could teach them. And as I've said before, as far as I'm concerned, this channel belongs to the subscribers. I just work for you guys. So, of course, I'm happy to do that. Like I said, it's been about 4 hours. The reason for the delay is because I didn't want to do an entire video dedicated to just one move. I always try to include at least a couple moves in the tutorials that I make. So, the one that he asked for is the in the hands riffle shuffle, which I will do that one first. But I was doing some looking around and trying to find out what the moves were that people were struggling with, especially relating to shuffling. I will also look at the overhand shuffle, and I'm also going to include a false overhand shuffle. The false overhand shuffle that I use most of the time, I've never seen taught anywhere else, and I didn't learn it from anyone. It's just something I started doing. I'm not saying I created it. I'm sure there have been other people that have done it. I've just never actually seen it taught anywhere. But I will get into a false overhand shuffle and a false table riffle shuffle as well. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And I had to rearrange my room a little bit so that I could get the camera closer and get a good look at my hands so you could actually see what was going on with these shuffles. But I'll go ahead and put a cut in here, and then we will start with the in the hands riffle shuffle. See what you're doing to me here, John? I had to get my lazy butt up out of my chair to film this one. But the in the hands riffle shuffle is the one that my subscriber, John, asked for. So that's the one we'll start with. And I won't lie to you, I'm not great at this one. I don't do it often. But when I was trying to learn how to do this, I struggled a lot myself. And when I'm struggling, I try to break the problem down into its component parts. And that's what I did here. And I think the biggest problem is that most of us learn this shuffle as a table shuffle, which is a difficult thing to do here, because if you use that same grip, you're just going to throw the cards. So the difference is that we need to learn how to shuffle while still gripping the cards. And a riffle shuffle is done primarily with these 4 fingers. The thumbs are doing the riffling. The first fingers are creating the bow that allows the riffle. So that leaves us these 6 fingers to either replace the table or to grip the cards. And the right way to do that is whichever way is the most comfortable for you. I'll show you the most common ones that I have seen. The most common ones I see are like this, where the ring fingers are on the bottom and the pinkies and middle fingers are on the sides so that you can hold the deck in place. And then you're free to shuffle with these 4 fingers. Or put the tips of the fingers on the bottom at the first knuckle and then curl those fingers so that you're squeezing the deck into the palm. But instead of trying to find a way to do the riffle shuffle while standing up, what I would suggest you do in looking at this problem is determining how to grip half the deck with these 3 fingers. Once you've found a grip you can use so that the deck's not going to move around on you, worry about how you're going to shuffle from that position. That's what I had to do. And what I learned is that the best way for me to do it is actually the one that looks the most uncomfortable. Because if I can hold the deck like this with these 6 fingers, it doesn't matter what these 4 fingers are doing. I could be hitchhiking with one hand and picking my nose with the other one. The deck is still not going to go anywhere. But that is how I would suggest you approach this problem. Don't look at the problem thinking, I need to do the riffle shuffle without a table, so how can I support the cards? Ask yourself, how can I comfortably grip a deck with these 6 fingers? Once you've answered that question, then determine how you can shuffle from that position. The easiest one for me, hold with these 6 fingers by curling the deck into my palms, and then I can shuffle with the sides of my thumbs, which is another piece of advice I wish someone had given me that I will give you. When you're doing a tabled riffle shuffle, cards are coming off the tip of your thumb at the end. When you're standing up, you're actually better off to use the sides of your thumbs so that you can control the amount of downward pressure and you're not firing the cards off into the distance somewhere. So instead of using the end of your thumb tip, use the side of it. That'll give you a lot more control over the amount of pressure. And then once you've got your grip down and you've got your thumb sideways, the rest of it just kind of naturally falls into place. And like I said, I still struggle a little because mine is not perfect either. But the way that I teach is more about finding a new way to look at the problem so that it's something we can actually understand and solve. And I still can't do it this way, but I know for a lot of people that's the easier way. So, like I said, first worry about how you can grip the deck with your lower 6 fingers. Then worry about trying to shuffle from that position. That's the best advice I can give you for the in the hands riffle shuffle. And I can tell you all day long that this is the easy way to do it. But the fact of the matter is, if you can't grip cards with your 6 fingers by pressing them against your palm, that's not going to be easy for you. So find a way that it's comfortable for you to grip the deck with just those 6 fingers. For me, that's the easy way. For some people, that's the easy way. I even know one guy who will hold the deck like he's going to do a tabled riffle shuffle, and he'll move his front finger or his first fingers to the front to create the bow, and then he moves them back to grip the cards. And I certainly can't do that very well, but it works for him. So that's what you should be focused on, is how can you grip the deck in a way that you can do whatever you need to do with these 4 fingers without dropping the deck from any angle. This is the way that works for me. It's the best advice I can give you for it, John. I hope it helps. I'll go ahead and put another cut in here and we'll move on to the next shuffle, which means I get to sit back down. All right. Now, before we move on to the overhand shuffle, I do want to stick with the riffle shuffle for just a minute. And this won't take long at all. But when you come back down to the table, if you're trying to do a false shuffle, I wouldn't suggest doing it this way. That's a little more difficult. But for the false shuffle on a riffle shuffle, personally, what I do is, it's actually a divergent method, because no one can deny that those cards are shuffled. So from here, the next move after I shuffle the cards would be to cut them, because I'm just gonna push that all the way straight through, and then when I pull the cards back apart, I'm just cutting them. So the method for doing that, the way that I do it, I'm starting in a straddle grip, but then I'm moving the first finger to the top of the deck, and then I come in with my thumb and my middle 2 fingers on this hand and grab the top part of the deck. So now I have basically a straddle grip in both hands. And I bring the first fingers back to the top to create the bow for the riffle. And I riffle off with the thumbs only at the corners. And then as I'm pushing the cards back together to square them up, because my thumbs are down here and my pinkies are at the outside, once my hands get close enough together to hide that action, I can rotate the hands and push all the way through. And then all I have to do is grab those protruding corners with the thumbs and the middle finger or ring finger, and you can pull that cut straight back through. And because I took the top half of the deck in the right hand when I cut and then shuffled and pushed through, the top half of the deck will now be in my left hand. So when I push through and pull out to cut, it's the left hand that goes on top. So again, pull the top off into the right hand and do the shuffle. And then when you push through, you're switching hands. So the top half of the deck will be in the left hand. And I actually missed that one, but I was trying to explain it as I was doing it. It's a little more difficult for me. But as you push through, you regrip the opposite corners, so the deck is switching hands. And if you prefer to end up with the top of the deck in your right hand, then when you come in, you would be taking the bottom half. Because when you do the push through, the deck is switching hands. So whichever half of the deck is in your left hand is going to end up in the right. So if you prefer to cut by moving your right hand to the top, then when your right hand comes in, it needs to strip out the bottom. And then do the shuffle, push all the way through, and now this is the top half of the deck. Just remember that the hand starts with the top half, it's going to end up with the bottom half, because your hand's in the middle. And again, for the actual push through process, the way that I do that, this is a straddle grip. First finger and pinky on the outsides, on the short edges, and your middle two fingers and your thumb on the long edges. From here, I curl this finger up, and I bring in the right hand with the middle two fingers and the thumb, strip out half the deck, and move that into a straddle grip. And I'm just curling back my first fingers to create the bow and riffling with the thumbs. And then once you naturally have to turn to get the deck to square up. And at this point, your hands have come together far enough to cover that you can just push all the way through. And you're going to end up with both halves of the deck switching places. And that, if you do it right, will actually leave the deck in exactly the same order. Not a single card will be changed. It's not easy to do, and it takes practice. And I wouldn't be trying to do it in a live poker game. I think I'd just probably stick to the magic tricks. But if you practice it enough, it gets effective. It looks like a false cut in a shuffle. And now we will move on to the overhand shuffle. So let's put in one more cut here. Time for the blue deck and the overhand shuffle. Both these decks are basically brand new. The overhand shuffle, I think most people know, but for anyone that doesn't, the way I do it, I'm holding the deck like this, with the thumb and the middle two fingers on the short edges, backs of the cards facing out. And then my right hand comes to catch the cards, and my right thumb is pulling them off, just a few at a time. You just do that over and over until you run out of cards. That's the entire overhand shuffle. It's a very simple thing to do, and it's a very simple thing to cheat. Now, if you're trying to do an overhand shuffle and keep the top card the same, then when you come in with the right hand, the first time you peel off cards, you're only taking one, and it's going to the back. Then you do the shuffle as normal. And when you get near the end, you start peeling the cards off one at a time until you run out. And the last card you come to will be the card you put on the back. And if you want the bottom card to stay the same, then when you start your shuffling with the right hand, you bring your thumb in, you grab the back card too with these two fingers, or either one of them, however it's comfortable for you. But for me, it's with these two fingers. So when I pull off the front card, I'm also pulling off the back card. Now I can just do an overhand shuffle. And the back card is going to stay the same. So that's if you want to keep just the card on top and the card on bottom the same. Now if you want to keep a handful of cards the same, say you were doing a 4-ace production, for instance, so you want to keep all 4 aces on top of the deck, which is usually a pretty good idea if you're trying to produce them. It's a good idea to know where they're at. Now, this is the part where I said, I'm sure there are other people that do this. I've just never seen them. I'm sure I didn't create this, but I've never seen anybody teach this either. The way that I do this is, I've seen people teach it telling you to actually pull off a single card 4 times, which will work, I guess, but to me, it's just ugly, and it seems like it would raise suspicion. I'm not knocking it. If it works for you, great, it works for you. For me, it doesn't work very often or very well. For me, the easiest way to keep that top stock the same, if I'm trying to keep 4 of a kind on the top of the deck, and I want the shuffle to look natural, the way I'm doing it is like this. Did you see it? Because most people don't. What I'm doing, I started out by telling you I'm only holding the deck with these 3 fingers. So what that means is when I pull off this first block and come back for the second one, I've got 2 fingers down here to hold these cards. And if you grab a hold of those cards at the same time you pull these ones off, then your right hand is never empty. And if you practice that, you can make it look pretty good. It's just the way I do it. It's not something I learned or read somewhere. It's just how I started doing it. I've never seen anybody teach it, but I'm 100% sure I didn't create that. I'm not trying to take credit for it. But that, for me, is by far the easiest way to keep a stack of cards on top of the deck the same. Because now I'm just doing a regular overhand shuffle until I get near the end. And when these cards, there's a separation here. The cards I want to keep are down here, and the cards I'm shuffling are up here. And when I get to nearing the end of these cards, I just put my thumb over the top and pull them all off. And now the 4 aces are still on top of the deck. And that, for me at least, is a whole lot easier than trying to pull off 4 single cards. And it doesn't look nearly as suspicious to me as trying to pull off 4 singles and then shuffling singles at the end. But that's just me. It's all personal preference. Do whatever works best for you.